Namo Ramanaya. Antaryascha bahirvidudativiram jyotirmayam sashvatam sthanam prapya virajate vinamatam ajnanam unmulayan pashyan vishwam apitam ullasatiyo visvasya pare paraha tasmai shri ramanaya lokagurave shokasya hantre namaha. Arunachalam. So we've been, in the last class, we saw the first 15 slokas of Upadesa Saram. We saw it in form of a summary, in the sense since we have already gone through all the slokas in much more detail. So we thought we'll quickly finish it in one session, but it was not possible to finish more than 15 slokas last class. So we split it into two, and it was good that we had a logical break. In after 15 songs, we are able to we were in one theme of not necessarily the core teaching of Bhagavan, but in the next 16 songs, the next 15 songs, he is given will feature the core teachings of Bhagavan, that is self-investigation, Atma Vichara. So this week, after seeing the first 15 songs can be considered as a preparatory method for people who are relatively new to Bhagavan's teaching, one, and people who think they do not have the inclination, very direct inclination towards sitting in vichara and trying to eliminate the ego. For such people, it will definitely be very, very useful, at least in form of a building block to obtain what we have been seeing as Chitta Sukti. Once we are able to do some Nishkamya karma or some bhakti in form of puja, japa, dhyana, and then developing the bhava called Ananya Bhakti that we have been seeing, like Soham Bhavam, like I am and Arunachalam are one and the same, we are not two. So internalizing such a bhava. And also we saw about the Raja Yoga Marga, like people, there are some people who are very naturally inclined towards that marga, like they want to sit in, they feel that controlling the breath and hence controlling the mind is more easier because they are able to follow, they are able to see the breath very clearly. So they prefer such marga. So the first 15 sloka definitely has its own value to every type of sadhaka according to their station in life. But the only thing is, at the end of attaining some maturity, they'll have to necessarily follow the self-investigation marga, the Atma Vichara, in order to eliminate the I once and for all. Otherwise, what happens is, if you control your mind using control of breath, the mind will be controlled so long as the breath is controlled. Meaning, so long as you're doing the pranayama, the mind will be controlled. Once the session called pranayama is over, mind will issue forth and go back to its with the normal force that it goes out, and it keeps doing its own vyavahara in this world. So ultimately, Manonasa is achieved with all this, but as we saw in one of the slokas, using the power of that Manonasa, that Manolaya, Maya Laya is achieved, I'm sorry, Manolaya is achieved, and using the power of that Manolaya, during the time of Manolaya, everything, all the contents are wiped out from the mind. There is no mind at that time. But once the stage is over, like once the sleep is over, or once the pranayama session is over, the breath control is over, the mind issues forth like before. But before it could issue forth, we have a great opportunity because the mind is pure and we can attack the mind, so to speak, with the question called who am I? If once at that time, if you are able to put the Atma Vichara with keen one-pointedness, it is far more easier to achieve the elimination of the final elimination of mind. So whichever marga we follow, ultimately, at least for a period, one should have to revert to the Bhagavan's core teaching, which is self-investigation or Atma Vichara. So each one can do according to however they prefer to work towards Sayujya. So, having seen the 15 slokas, in the 15th sloka we saw that yogi who has completely destroyed his mind by means of practice of pranayama or whatever practice and applying the investigation on top of it is completely has completely achieved whatever one needs to achieve in this birth. And for him, there is nothing else that he needs to do. All he has to do, and he won't do anything. He won't have any inclination to do anything. He'll just be happily in the stage of. He'll be happily residing in Satchitananda Parabrahma. That is what he will be doing, and that is the culmination of one marga. Now, from the 16th sloka onwards, Bhagavan starts the direct teaching of Atma Vichara. வெளி விஷயங்களை விட்டு மனம் தன் ஒளியுரு ஓர்தலே உந்தி பர உண்மையுணர்ச்சியாமுந்தி பர. We have seen this song in quite a number of sessions before. That is because it is a very, very concise form of Atma Vichara, the teaching of Atma Vichara. Veli Vishayangal. That Veli Vishayangal means outside thoughts. Anything related to, which is not related to us, which is related to outside. Veli Vishayangal, Vittu, leaving all the outside externalities, and Manam, Tan Oli Uru Ordal. Manam, the mind, seeing its own self, its own light. Its own light means, the keen investigation of the sense of I, the feeling called I, will automatically ensure that that feeling called I, the pseudo I, the rising I, drops off. And in that place, the pristine pure I will shine forth. The shining is what is known as the Oli Uru Ordal here in this sloka. This is what is known as Unmai Unarchi. This is true knowing. This is true knowledge. So Bhagavan sums up the entire process in a matter of 3 lines. Leave out all the external thoughts. This is something, as we have seen before, which is achieved every day by us during our deep dreamless sleep. We go into that state, but only thing is, we go into that state not consciously, but without our knowledge, because the mind, after the entire day's activity, gets tired and then it sinks in its source for a period of time, because the it is not yet understood, it's still under the spell of ignorance of not knowing who you really are. So there are 2 steps which is very clearly noted to be noted here. Leave out externalities, and that alone is not sufficiently enough, because we go into that, we drop that externalities every day in form of deep sleep. But the second step, which cannot be done during deep sleep, it can be done only in the state of Jagrat, in the wakeful state, is to keenly divert the focus on I, the feeling called I. And the beauty of this marga is that this feeling of I is the only capital, working capital, that we need in the investigation method. And fortunately, the feeling of I is always with us wherever we are. We don't need to make an extra preparation, like pack up the feeling of I, put it in a case and then carry it along with us. No, it comes inbuilt. The feeling cannot be eliminated by us. It will always be there. Whoever it is, there is no one that is there without the feeling of I. The feeling of I drops only during the deep sleep, but we are trying to do our sadhana only in the state of Jagrat. So, all of us without exception are already provided with the most important working capital. For all business, we need this form of working capital, that form of capital and all that. And we'll have to earn for that. Some may be lucky to get it, some may not get it, and some may get it partially. Here, without exception, everyone has the same capital without 1 inch more or 1 inch less. Everybody's got the feeling of I within oneself, which is readily available and waiting for it to be watched so that it can subside. We saw why this I feeling came out of the Parabrahma Satchitananda? No, the such question is irrelevant. As Bhagavad Padal, Shankara Bhagavad Padal has clearly made. And understand that why are you bothered about that? There is no answer to it, because if you want to answer, that took place in the infinite past. It does not have a beginning at all. It's anadi. So, but one thing we are all clear is that we have an individualized feeling called I, which is limited to the boundary of the body. This much is clear to everyone. So we know we have a problem. So our only bounded duty is to get rid of that problem, is to eliminate the problem and go back to our pristine pure self. So there's no use in asking such questions, because these are all just scholarly questions. Plenty of such questions can be keep on, we can generate such questions and try to find out answer. Again, the mind is the one that has to answer this question, and this mind itself is false, bogus, which we are trying to eliminate. So what is the guarantee that we will get the right answer from the mind? Which is already getting into a point where the moment we start talking about this Atma Vichara, the moment we start becoming devotees of Bhagavan and such gurus, the mind is already having a sense of fear. It's already fearful, a little fearful that any day it can get eliminated. So this mind is not necessary. It may masquerade. It may take it may wear a hat in such a way that it's helping you the most. It will pretend that it's cooperating with you the maximum, but inside, heart and heart, it is not doing so, because it's got its own vested interest. Because once the mind goes, you're going to be Parabrahma Satchitananda, and the mind has no place in it. Because the mind issues forth at a much later stage. Only after the spark called I comes out of the Satchitananda, the mind has an opportunity to come up. So mind is not going to necessarily, it is like using the mind to kill the mind, as Bhagavan has told, is like making the thief as a policeman to catch the thief who is nothing but himself. So will that thief who has taken the role of a policeman, or the vesha of a policeman, will ever agree to catch the thief who is himself? Some similar is the case with the mind trying to catch the mind or eliminate the mind. It will pretend that it is doing a good job out of it. It will sit in meditation. It will sit in vichara, and it will do all the things. It will make you believe that the mind is the most sincere entity, that in order to eliminate the mind itself. But it is not giving you the full cooperation. Sometimes it will. This is exactly why we need the grace of Bhagavan. Without Bhagavan's grace, such a state cannot be achieved by the mind. The mind will keep struggling to achieve, to accept the proposition, or to accept its fate. Only the grace of Bhagavan. This is why a guru's blessing is always needed. It's not that everybody can just sit and try to eliminate the I. All that is theoretically possible, but when are we going to get such a benefit or such a strength of mind? Only with the grace of Bhagavan. This is why we go to temples. This is why we pray. This is why we always are so fondly remembering Bhagavan. This is why we all have the picture of Bhagavan in front of us always, just to see and then get back to the state of Atma Vichara by His grace. Manika Vachakar used to say in Tiruvachakam, Avan Arulale Avantal Vanangi, which means with his own help, I will be able to fall at his feet. To fall at the feet of our Lord is not possible without the grace of that Lord. It's not that I can rightfully go. I can walk up to whatever I want, to the temple. I can walk up to the sanctum sanctorum. I can do a namaskar or submit myself in the feet of the Lord and walk back successfully. No. Until I am eligible by means of His grace, I am not going to be able to do that act. I have been away from Arunachala for a long time now. So it's been a while since I've made it to Arunachala. For whatever reason, I'm not yet making it because I know the call is not there. Either there is a lapse on my part, or my sincerity, or I wait for my better times. I will wait. I have no choice. In the meanwhile, I do have the option of thinking of Arunachala. Smaranat Kaivalyam is Arunachala. All you have to do is think about Arunachala. In one of the previous sessions, we saw about the Arunachala Mahatmyam, where we saw just thinking of Arunachala, even from a very far away country, is good enough. So we have to somehow be in the Smaranam of Arunachalam and gain the grace of the Lord, which will help us in sitting in the Vichara without any distraction of. We'll get Ekagraha, Ekagraha of the mind will be able to achieve. So in the 16th song, he starts the Marga, leave out all externalities, focus on your own self. This is what is known as Vichara, and this is what is Unmai Unarchi. This is what will yield the true knowledge. Now, this 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, they will progress so beautifully. You'll see. Now, the overall Marga has been discussed. In the next song, 17th song, Bhagavan says, Manadin Uruvai Maravadu Sava Manam Yena Undrillai Undi Para Margan Nera Kumid Undi Para. So in the previous song, he said, leave out externalities and focus on yourself. Who has to do that? The ego has to do that. And the ego is nothing but mind. Mind and ego, they are all synonymous. It's got a lot. Mind, the ego has got a lot of names in form of ego, jiva, mind, samsara, and plenty of other names. Out of which this mind, we have come to, we now know who has to do this sadhana. The sadhana has to be done by the ego, or also known as the mind. Now, we need to know what is mind. So Bhagavan brings out that in this sloka. He first says what should be done with this entity called mind. Manadin uruvai maravadu usava. Manadin uru, that is a form of mind, has to be without forgetfulness. Maravadi, without forgetfulness, has to be scrutinized. When one scrutinizes in that form, they will slowly understand, I'm trying to scrutinize this entity called mind, but I'm not seeing any mind. Slowly he'll come to the conclusion, Manavena Undrile, there is nothing called mind. Margam near Arkumidundi para. This is the direct path for everyone. So, what it means? Manadin Uruvai, but without forgetting, without giving room for pramada. Pramada means forgetfulness. Pramada is a Sanskrit term. Without giving room for such pramada, trying to find out the form, scrutinize the form of mind, slowly come to the conclusion that there is nothing called mind. When one scrutinizes the form of mind without forgetfulness, that is, without pramada or slackness of attention, it will be found that there is no such thing called mind. And this is the direct path taught by Bhagavan Ramana. This is exactly what we should be doing. So, after knowing that mind should do the job, we are trying to find out, is there anything called mind? And we conclude that there is nothing called mind. So, but still, what happens? We still feel that there is something called mind. Because otherwise, what are we thinking with? We always think we are also familiar with the saying, you're not using your mind, use your mind. Our teachers have told us in school, so many people in work, our bosses have told, use your mind. So this mind is something, whether we like it or not, accept or not, we always talk about the entity called mind. So we should know what this mind is. In the previous song, it was declared there is no mind. And we are scrutinizing by means of scrutiny. And what is that scrutiny? Once more, that scrutiny is nothing but keenly focusing on the feeling called mind. Just like how we will keenly focus on the entity that appears like a snake in dim light. We go close, we scrutinize, we again and again slowly develop conviction or doubt that there is something wrong here. This does not seem like a snake. It is not moving for a long time. It is not responding to my action gesticulations. And we ultimately conclude it is nothing but rope, which is the adhisthana, which is the base on which the snake is appearing. Similarly, upon scrutiny of the mind, we will find out of the entity called mind, which appears like the feeling called I. Once we scrutinize it again very closely, by staying completely, by retaining all our attention on that feeling, this I grows only with the help of thoughts. Where thoughts are deprived, it is sort of starving. And it will starve enough that it will fall off, that it cannot survive. Now, we are taking out all our attention away from the second and third person, that is things in front of us or things in the distant world, everywhere. We are removing our mind from all that and focusing only on the feeling of I, the first person singular. We are taking away our mind from the second and third person and focusing on the first person singular. And we also saw the elimination took place. Like this body is not the I. What is this I? We have been doing some little bit of discussion on this previously. So we'll have to apply that and find out that this yushmat, that is this you, whatever can be, the mind is not me because I call it as my mind. The intellect is not me because I call it mind. They are all my belongings, my property. So after eliminating all this, whatever is there, the feeling is called I. That is the subject. Everything else is the object. So once we scrutinize this I, we're going to find out that there is nothing called I. Now, in the 18th sloka, it says, Yannangade manam yavelu nan yenum yanname mulamamundi para yanam manam yenalundi para. Yannangade manam. Only mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. Bhagavan is told that in a lot of occasions, including the book Who Am I? Mind is nothing but a collection of thoughts. There's nothing called mind. When we say nothing called mind, but we have thoughts, you cannot have. Thoughts are mind. Ennangale manam. A lot of these thoughts you put together, you call it as a collective name as mind. The thoughts are mind. And of all these thoughts, the moment the spark called I comes out of Satchitananda, Nan yenum enname moolamam. The first thought that comes to everyone is the root thought called I. And this root thought called I is also known as the thought called I am this body, because as we saw earlier, this I cannot survive in the absence of a body. It is a phantom. It is spineless. It can just fall without the support of the body. So it considers, it catches hold of a body. This will be explained in 25th sloka of Ulladu Narpadu later on when we see that in more clarity, in more detail. This I will not survive in absence of a body. In deep sleep, the body falls, the feeling body falls and the I falls. This I has to catch hold of something in order, either thoughts will have to be there at least, without which the I will fall flat. So, of all the thoughts that rises as soon as the ego arises from Satchitananda, the thought called I. Lot of books, lot of authors will write I thought, I dash thought. That is right. But the more clarity is given when you say it, the thought called I. That is when you know that I is nothing but a thought. nothing other than the Parabrahman is only a thought. This is Bhagavan's teaching. Bhagavan has made it abundantly clear to us that everything is only a thought. And hence, they are phantom. And hence, they are ghost-like. Uruvatra pei, Bhagavan used to call it Ulladinartham. Formless ghost is this mind. So, the first thought that comes to anyone is the thought called I, and that is what is called as mind. That is what we popularly call as mind. The mind is only a multitude of thoughts. Of all these thoughts, the thought called I, the feeling I am the body, alone is the root. Therefore, what is called as mind is nothing but this root thought I. Okay, so now Bhagavan has progressed from there and told us the nature of this I. Thoughts are mind and I thought is the first. So what does this lead us to? Where does this lead us to? So when we say Atma Vichara and when we have to eliminate everything, all we have to do is eliminate this I, uproot. Just pull the root out. You don't need to eliminate. That's why we say this Neti Neti Marga is one of the classical margas propounded in Vedanta, in a lot of Vedantic literature. But the problem is, I have to keep on eliminating. I am not this feeling, I am not this body, I am not this senses, I am not this indriyas, I am not this karmendriyas, I am not this jnanendriyas, I am not this prana, I am not this pancha prana, I am not the thinking mind, I am not the intellect, I am not. And, okay, and how are we doing all this? With the help of mind. So, as said before, the thief is made as a policeman to catch the thief that is himself. The success rate is not going to be very big. You cannot meaningfully expect any great success in that method. So, here in this Atma Vichara Marga, we are not making use of the mind because we are going to the source of the mind. We are seeing where the mind is rising from. We are going to the Moolam. So, we are not trying to use the mind. We are going behind the mind. We are trying to transcend the feeling called mind and go behind and give a blank stare and see whether there is a mind, and we conclude there is nothing called mind, there is only Sachidananda Parabrahma. So this is the basic difference between Bhagavan's teaching of Atma Vichara and the classical method of Atma Vichara. All of them ultimately aims the same thing, but Bhagavan, the thing is, in classical method, we take the existence of the mind for granted initially and work towards negating the existence of mind. In Bhagavan's Marga, right from start, we are having a big time suspicion about the existence of a thing called mind. Bhagavan never allows us to, even for the sake of sadhana or practice, he never allows us to accept that there is an entity called mind. Right from the start, he makes us develop a suspicion towards the existence of mind, and he is given it in these slokas very clearly. So, Yana Manam Ena Undiyar. So, this feeling called I that happens, Enangale Manam, or the thoughts are mine. Of all the thought called I is the first one to come out, and this thought is nothing but I. We popularly called as, we call this thought as I. I am the body. And that is exactly what we need to get rid of. And in the 19th sloka, he says, now he has brought us to a point where what is this feeling called I that we have? It's nothing but thoughts. So in 19th sloka, he goes on to say, நானென்றேழும் ஈடம் ஏதென நாட உள் நான் தலை சாய்ந்திடும் முந்தி பர ஞான விசாரமேதுந்தி பர. Now he tells us now what to do. Now that we have come to a conclusion that this I thought is I am the body feeling is the first thought, and that is what is we all popularly call as I. Every time we talk, I came, I went, I did this. We're not talking about the body, but the feeling called I. The body comes much later in the picture. Even though the thought called I am this body comes, but the constituents of the body comes only because of the mind. There's so much in the body, in the physiological body, and everything comes only after the mind, I issues forth, and everything comes out only because of the existence of this mind. And if we have to get rid of the feeling of body, we have to get rid of the feeling of mind. So, how? Bhagavan says in this 19th sloka, Nan endru elum idam, that is the place of rising of this I. There is a place from which it issues forth. For example, we say, I am seeing a snake there. From where did the snake come from? After scrutiny, we say it came from the rope. So that rope is adhisthana. That is a substratum or the base for the snake to appear. Now, here in the sloka, Bhagavan says, Nan endru elum idam, the place, the rising place of I, edana nada. If we scrutinize, what is this place from where this feeling of I is coming out? And once you do such scrutiny, Nan talai saindidum, the I will bend its head, or in popular term, it will die. The I will die. It will perish. It will not exist anymore. Nan talai saindidum. This is jnana vicharam. This is exactly the path of self-inquiry. So, if somebody has to know the meaning of the method of doing the who am I meditation, means just watch the place from where the feeling I issues forth, and the I feeling will fall down flat. Why? We saw the I feeling is being deprived of its food called thoughts. We have removed all our thoughts because in 16th sloka, we have been clearly seeing வெளி விஷயங்களை விட்டு மனம்தான் ஒளிவுறு, leaving out all externalities and focusing. So the moment all externalities here means one's body also, one's mind, one's intellect, one's everything, indriyas, everything is dropped. Mind is withdrawn from all this. And now the focus is on the I. And since this I needs some external second or third person food to survive, now it is deprived of such a food. It suffers, it is in pain, and it drops and dies. This is the jnana vicharam. This is the marga of, or the technique of jnana vichara as taught by Bhagavan. So this 19th sloka is the most practical one, in the sense it tells you what to do. Whether you understand the 18th up to 18th sloka or not, you can just follow the 19th sloka with Shraddha in Bhagavan's words. Bhagavan has said, sit down quiet, focus on the feeling called I, which is available for everybody at anywhere. Wherever you go to the most distant country, you cannot leave this I feeling and you can go. Can anybody? No. So this capital is always there wherever you are. You go to the mountain, you go to the cave, you be in the ocean, you be in the forest, you be in Bhagavan's ashram, be anywhere. This I feeling always is there, available for you to put it into test, put it into vichara marga. So 19th sloka, when one scrutinizes with it, thus, what is the rising place of this feeling called I? The I will die. And this is self-inquiry. So Bhagavan is simplifying everything as we journey. He's making everything, whatever is given, so verbosely in all the commentaries, in all the bhashyas, in all the tikas, in all the mula material, that is the original material of writing, scholarly works, everything Bhagavan just condenses down. He's just brought it like this in form of aphorism. And you see Bhadrayana's aphorism called Sutra, called Brahma Sutra. We won't understand anything without going through the eloquent manuals written by Shankara Bhagavat. And then a lot of sub-commentaries written on top of that Brahma Sutra Bhashya written by Bhagavad. Bhagavad is popularly called by the name Bhashyakara. He is written Bhashyam for the Prasthana Trayi, for Bhagavad Gita, for the principal Upanishads and Brahma Sutra. That's why he is popularly known as Bhashyakara. Bhagavan Bhashyakara, we call him. So, in order to know such a sutra or aphorism called Brahma Sutra, we need all this reading. But this Upadesa Undiyar or Upadesa Saram is nothing but a sutra. But the beauty is it is self-evident for people with little bit of inclination to know. See, in the sloka, let us say the 19th sloka, now I'm just saying it in Tamil, people who, if at all you don't understand directly, it is only because of lack of knowledge of a language, not the concept. So, Nadan idam edana nada, when you scrutinize the place, idam means place, the place where the eye rises from, Nantalai Saindil, the eye will fall. And this is what is known as Jnana Vichara. Who does not understand this? Anybody who has had a little bit of foundation, a little bit of interest and inclination, will immediately understand this aphorism. But the same thing, what in the first sutra, Brahma Sutra, Atato Brahma Jignyasaha starts Badrayana, Vedavyasa. Nobody will understand. Now, it's not only because of lack of Sanskrit knowledge. It is because it is so much intricate and complicated. You won't understand. And this is why it has led for Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya to interpret it in one way, and Srimad Ramanujacharya to interpret it in totally another way, and Sri Madhavacharya to interpret it in yet another way. And so many people who have written the base commentary or Brahma Sutra have interpreted. Bhagavan Bhashyakara is interpreting it in the form of Advaita. But Adi Shankara, Ramanujacharya later on comes and says, I don't see any reference to Advaita here in this sutram, in this aphorism. So he interprets this according to how he is mind. He says there is a Srimad Narayana residing in Vaikunda and all that. So he takes a thorough dual path. So does Madhavacharya. Then later on, there are so many commentaries and other things developed by Shankara Bhagavad Pada, which proves that it has to be Advaita, because all other things are under the assumption of something exists somewhere, without knowing what that something is and where that place is. Whereas Bhagavad Pada straight says there is Bhakti. And nobody can disprove. If at all the people who say that there is something somewhere will have the responsibility of proving what is there and where it is. Somebody who says there is nothing has nothing to prove, because there is nothing. So, even people on normal walk of life with some little bit of inclination to learn, with the help of this Upadesa Sara, without let anybody translate this Upadesa Sara or write a commentary, they'll all be unanimous, because it's so open and clear. And Bhagavan's words are so neat and to the point. There is no assumptions here. It's all threadbare. So, the 19th sloka, he teaches the method of doing the Atma Vichara. And then in 20th song, he goes on to say, நான் ஒன்று தானத்து நான் என்றொன்றது தானாகத் தோன்றுமே உந்தி பர தானது பூன்றமாமுந்தி பர. Now, we have seen the place, scrutinized the place from where this feeling called I issues forth in this previous song. What happens when we do that? We say the I falls off. Question arises, where does it fall off? If the snake disappears, what happens when the snake disappears? The rope appears, because that is the adhisthana, as we have seen. That is the substratum or the base from which the snake came forth. And now, when we analyze, based on keen scrutiny and the words of people, Aptavakyam it's called, and the people, birds of people who have learned, who know, they say it is not a snake. Go, I have seen it, I have already done it. I was fooled once upon a time, but I realized that it is not a snake. If you want, go near him, do your investigation. And such Aptavak, we call it. Apta means a learned person. So we go near the snake now and scrutinize and find out there's no snake. And what happens? The rope now shows up clearly. Similarly, when this feeling called I drops off, நான் ஒன்று தானத்து, the place where the I feeling merges, that a feeling called I, a continuous feeling called I, automatically surges forth. And this feeling is not a thought. This is not a thought like our I thought that came out as a spark from Sachitananda Parabrahman. This is Sachitananda Parabrahman itself. In a lot of books we have seen it return. I dash. If you have, I don't know if you've read a lot of books, English books, Ashram book itself. The Bhagavan used to say nan. There is a feeling called I continuously will come. They used the term called I dash I dash I dash I dash I like that. But the actual import of that I dash I or nan என்று ஒன்று, the one feeling called I, the pure feeling called I will rise forth. I am I. If you ask who are you, I will immediately say I am Vasu. Because right now I am at the level of the personality. Or I am a male. I am a 52-year-old male. Or I am the general manager or a vice president in this company. Some externalities we used to be. But the true import of the word I is, if you want to be very meaningful, honest about who you are, say, if somebody asks who are you, the only answer you can give is I am I. That's all. That I is God. And Bhagavan has told in many places, I am is the first name of God. That is why he says, God is nothing but I. The pure, unadulterated I, which is in the substratum of the rising I. So Bhagavan says, you keep considering, okay, you find all this very difficult, just keep thinking, I am. It will take you to the place. It's equivalent to Vichara Bhagavan. Just in the book Who Am I is clearly given that also. So if somebody says, I don't know, I'm trying to sit. But if you consider the point made by Bhagavan, both this Vichara and that is same. Because in this Vichara, what we are trying to do, we are trying to get rid of all external thoughts and focus on the feeling called I. Now, when Bhagavan says, just keep thinking of I am with elimination of other thoughts, already your attention is come to that I am, because other than that you are not doing. So, veli vishayangalai vittu manam tan oli uru, seeing its form of light. It is already doing that. And because you are not thinking of it, with the exclusion of every other thought, you are thinking of the thought called I am. The first part and the second part of the 16th sloka is cheap. So, there is no difference. It's only Bhagavan making, for the sake of people who are finding it difficult or complaining, Bhagavan, this is difficult for them, he's making it like a japa. He's making it appear like a japa. Like, I can say in japa, I can say Arunachala, repeating the name of God. And Bhagavan says, I am the first name of God. This, I don't know how it happened. In English, it's called I am. In Sanskrit, it's called I am. I don't know if it is a coincidence or however to explain it, but this is how it is done. So in popular languages, all root words, including Hebrew, including all the ancient languages, they all somewhere share a connection of root, meaning that everything is same. All is one. Ellam ondre. There is a book, a very, very important book that everybody should read, a small book, highly recommended by Bhagavan. And I think, I don't know if I shared it in the group once before, but for the benefit of others, I will share it one more time. It's a very small book, but a very powerful one. Everything is one. Ekam, Ekam. Ellam Ondre Ekam. It's called, and the English translation, all is one. Is the meaning. So here, this non, non undru tanathu, non. This non is what we were discussing. I am I. This is what one can say about oneself, meaning nothing else. Anything else, in any other way you try to describe yourself, you are using your mind and you are completely come out of the Satchitananda Parabrahman into the rising I called ego. So we should eliminate that, and that is the 90, that is what the 20th sloka says. What happens? In 16th sloka, he laid the concept, what to do. In 17th sloka, he said the collection of mind is nothing but thoughts, is nothing but in 17th, he said by thorough scrutiny of the mind, we'll understand that there is nothing called mind. And in the 18th sloka, he says, even though there is a semblance of mind, it is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. Of all the thoughts, the thought called I is the first thought. And in 19th sloka, he set forth as to what to do. Now that I know that a feeling called I is there, where does this I rise from? Scrutinize, and that I will die. This is Jnana Vichara. And in 20th song, he said, when this Jnana Vichara is practiced, this I will fall somewhere. And if you ask where it falls on itself, that is, it becomes itself. It merges on the Satchitananda Parabrahma. And at that time, after the merging, one will understand a separate I never ever came from. It was all only imagination. Even this imagination won't take place at that time because there is nothing. Who is to imagine what? Only now we are able to understand that if we reach such a state, it is going to be understood by us that this ego never ever came about because there was nothing to come out of. There's nothing. Everything has become Ekam. This is exactly what is known as Ajata Siddhanta. Ajata, the core of Bhagavan's teaching, of Bhagavan's own experience, and of course of all the Jnanis, is nothing but Ajata. They won't even, there's nothing to agree, no one to agree that something called I came about, like a phantom like I came about accidentally or without, mysteriously, by means of, with the help of this Anirvachaniya Tattva called Maya. There is nothing, no one to say even that. You are always this I, the pristine pure I. Nothing has happened to the pristine pure I. This is what will happen when we hit the permanent, when we go to the permanent abode of I. So that is the Ajata Siddhanta, talked in length by Bhagavan and by Gaudapadacharya, the grand preceptor of Shankara Bhagavad Padal, and Shankara Bhagavad Padal himself in all the occasions. Ajata is all that is there. Everything else is coming out of an illusion, a built-in and Sakti in the Parabrahman called Maya. And what is this Maya? Nobody is clever enough to understand or answer this Maya. One should not try to answer what Maya is, because Maya is of the nature of, its nature is inscrutable. No one can scrutinize what Maya is. Anirvachaniya. Then later on, in order to understand, people will start calling us Triguna Maya. It is called Sattva, Rajo, Tamas. These three gunas are nothing but Maya, and all that will come. But at the level of Ajata, even this Maya is not there. So, Shankara Bhagavad Padal was called by a lot of these dualistic schools as Mayavadin, the one who talks about Maya everything. But it is Shankara Bhagavad Padal who said there is no Maya. So, will you call a person who denies Maya as a Mayavadin, or a person who takes shelter under the non-existent Maya as Mayavadin? Shankara Bhagavad Padal, because these people have never understood Shankara Bhagavad Padal's teaching, they started calling him as Mayavadi. For him, for everything, he'll say Maya. He says that Maya itself is not there in the start. Such is the level of understanding of Bhagavad Padal's work. He said, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Nityam, Jivo Brahmaivana Apara. They are non-different. These jivas are nothing but Brahma, Param Brahma. So once you use the third sentence, this is how he concludes. But these critics, they use only the first two, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Nityam. How? Because there is non-difference between Brahma, the Satyam, and the Vidya Loka. Like, without the rope, the snake is not going to come out. Like, in the same way, without that Parabrahma Satchidananda, this world is not going to come out. So, without, just so many examples used in Vedanta, like silver and on the shell, you go to the seashore, you see a lot of shell from a distance, it appears like a silver. Immediately we want to go and pick it up, but after examination, we found this is not silver, this is only a shell. Like that, and there is a stump, a big tree like a thing, and we see from distance, and we think it is either a thief or a ghost or whatever, and then upon clear examination. Right? So the most common example that we use is the rope and the snake analogy. So such is the teaching of Advaita, Ajata Siddhanta, as experienced by all the saints and all the jnanis. So up to this, from 16 to 20, if one is able to get the grasp the meaning of sloka 16 to 20 and imbibe it and start practicing it, there's nothing much that is needed beyond these 5 slokas. Now, in the rest of the slokas, Bhagavan teaches us the nature or certain nuances of the concept of Advaita. In 21st sloka, he says, நான் என்னும் சொல் பொருளாமது நாளுமே நானற்ற தூக்கத்தும் உந்தி பர நமதின்மை நீக்கத்தால் உந்தி பர. Here he says, the word called I, நான் எனும் I, சொல் means word, பொருள் means meaning. The import of the word called I, நான் in Tamil, is always the original pristine pure I, which is present during the deep sleep. We have analyzed the deep sleep in number of occasions before. In deep sleep, the mind completely subsides, and because of the subsidence of the mind, the feeling called I is not there, because we have seen even in the start that I and mind, they are all synonyms. And when all this is not there, still we know our existence, because when we, at the time of sleeping, we might not know, because we do not have the right apparatus called the body or the mind to scrutinize. So when we wake up, when we come back to the Jagrat state, we say that I slept very well. I had no thoughts. It was very peaceful, all this we say. So a continuation of that I should have been there in some form, and that form is the real you or me. That is where we are driving at. In sleep, this is the example of sleep. So in this sloka, he says, actually we say I, we use this I at least thousands of times every day. Whether directly, explicitly using the sound called I, or implicitly by meaning that it was me. So, what is we are not able to stop using this term called I. What is this I? Whether we use it in this term after superimposition in form of ignorance as mind or whatever, whenever we say I, the original meaning of this I is the I that is available to us during the deep sleep. It's also known as Sushuptatman. This I, all this is, whenever we say I, it is Atma. Whether the original Parabrahma Satchidatma or adulterated Atma that we have perceived. So, this I is also known as what is available in deep sleep, is known as the Vedantic terminology for that is Sushuptatman, because in Sushupti, that is the Atman we are able to see after we get up from the sleep in the Jagrat state using the mind. So that the I am I that we saw as a whole is always the import of the word I because we exist. Literally, it means because of absence of non-existence during sleep. That is a word Bhagavan used here. Nanatra tukkatum namadinmai nikkatat. Because of non-elimination of the feeling of the I, not the feeling called of the original I, even in deep sleep. So it literally means because of the absence of non-existence, of our non-existence, even in sleep, which is devoid of the the I thought. At the time, the I thought is not there. So even without the I thought, also known as mind, we exist as the pristine pure I, because of which we are able to recollect the experience after we wake up and come back to our Jagrat state. So this is sloka number 21 and 22. It says, Udal pori ullam உயிர் ஈருள் எல்லாம் ஜடம சத்தானதாலுந்தி பர சத்தான நானல்ல உந்தி பர. Here he just indirectly makes a reference to the panchakosa in the body. So whenever we talk about body, this body comprises of 5 kosas. Annamaya kosa, which is the gross physical body. And next, inside the Annamaya kosa is the Pranamaya kosa, which is the breath, the Pancha Pranas, as it is called, because the prana does 5 different functions within the for maintenance of the body, like for blood circulation, for blood purification, for assimilating the content of food taken into various parts of the body, and such other activity. That's why it's called Pancha Prana. Each prana does a duty, has a duty. And within this Pranamaya kosa, we have this Manomaya kosa, which is the kosa of our volition, of our thinking, of our conceiving thoughts. Here only thought is conceived. Oh, I see something, that is a pen, that is a tree, that is a book. All this thought gets formed at the level of Manomaya kosa. And beyond Manomaya kosa, we have Vijnanamaya kosa, the sheath of intelligence, intellect. And this is where decisions are made. Okay, now I touch a cup of hot water and I feel heat. Now, this Vijnanamaya kosa is what? Don't touch it. A decision for all our action is issued forth at the level of Vijnanamaya kosa. And beyond the Vijnanamaya kosa, there is the kosa of darkness, dense darkness, which is what is seen in sleep. It's called Anandamaya kosa because it is full of Ananda because there is no mind. When there is no mind, Ananda is what results. Because only when mind is there, wants are there. Only when wants are there, the desire and fear is there, like in form of wants, only when such a thing is there, the Ananda is going to be lost. Because we have to do this, we have to do that, there is obstacles. But in such a condition, where is Ananda going to be prevalent? But in the deep sleep, in the darkness of the sleep, since the mind is lost, it is full of bliss. That is why it is called Anandamaya kosa. It is also called as the causal body, Karana Sarira, because it's only from that state again we come back to the waking state. Everything opens up. So it is a cause. It is a doorway. It is a gateway for all the other kosas. As we saw earlier, this Annamaya kosa and Pranamaya kosa can be categorized as the gross body. This Manomaya kosa and Vijnanamaya kosa will be categorized as a subtle body. And this Anandamaya kosa as a causal body. Gross body, because we know the body, the existence of the body, it is there. We are able to feel it, touch it, transact with it. Pranamaya kosa also can be in either in a subtle body or in gross body, but it depends on how you want to take it. Like if you see, I'm able to see the breath. I mean, not with the eye, but I'm able to feel the breath. So it is gross enough for me to put in gross form. But the mind and Vijnanamaya kosa are subtle. You cannot grossify them, so we call it a subtle. And the Anandamaya kosa is full of bliss at that time. And we call it. So in this sloka, 22nd, Bhagavan says, Udal, Porul, Udal, Puri, Ullam, Uyir, Irul. These are the 5 words. Udal means body. Puri means mind, or literally senses, all the senses. Uyir means breath. Ullam means intellect. Irul means the darkness. So all the kosas, like body, mind, intellect, breath, and the darkness or ignorance that remains in deep sleep, are all insentient. They don't have any form of chit in them. They are jata. They are unreal, asat. And so they are not a real I. So this is one of the elimination marga that is normally used in Vedantic Panchakosa, as it is called, the elimination of all the 5 sheets, starting from gross to the starting from Annamaya Kosa to Annamaya Kosa. So Bhagavan gives us from the point of view of Vedantic teaching, he teaches us that none of this are us. So they are worth eliminating. So he goes to sloka. Here, from here on, from 16 to 20 are practicable approaches. These are a little theoretical knowledge that we need to know in order to practice the 16 slokas, the import of sloka 16 to 20 thoroughly. We have to have these background. So after completing 20 sloka 23 or 22, in 23 he says, உள்ளது உணர உணர்வு வேறின்மையின் உள்ளது உணர்வாகும் முந்தி பர உணர்வே நாம் ஆயுளம் முந்தி பர. This is a very important slokam. We have seen in number of occasions that உள்ளது, that which exists, unara, to know, unarvu வேறின்மை, because there is no other consciousness, because at that state there is only one sat being. That being has to know itself because there is no another conscious, like mind or whatever, to know the existence of the being, of the sat. So, unarve naam ayula mundipara. So, we, that is the original I, that is the sat, is what is known as I. The sat is nothing but I. Also, because of the non-existence of another consciousness to know that which exists, or the reality or sat, is itself the chit, the consciousness. And that is me. That sat chit is nothing but what we call it as I. I am I. When we say I am I, it is nothing but the sat chit, the original sat chit. And since the sat, besides, there is nothing besides sat, even if there has to be a chit, it has to be rolled inside that sat. So, Satchitananda is the nature. Sat, Chit and Ananda, they are not 3 different entities or attributes. They are the nature of the Parabrahman. Because we need some words to explain, we call it, to understand, to communicate in the language of duality, we call it as Sat, which is existence. We call it as Chit, which is consciousness. We call it as Anandam, which is bliss, infinite bliss. But we are also very, very carefully committing this to our mind that they are not 3 different entities or attributes. They are the nature. They are there only to describe the Satchitananda, the Parabrahma. So this is what is taught in this 23rd song. Ulladu unara, because of the non-existence of another consciousness to define the Sat, to make us understand the Sat. If you remember on the small talk Satchitananda that was posted, we said there is a Sat called Arunachala, and in order for us to know the Sat called Arunachala, a Chit called Ramanam, Seemingly came forth. Seemingly is a very important word here. Seemingly came forth because that Sat is not another other than Chit. And the reason for why this, what is the purpose of this Ramanam? To make us know this being called Arunachalam. And why does this entity called Ramanam explain to us the being called Sat Arunachalam? Only for us to be in Ananda, the third nature of Satchitananda. Only for us always to be in that Ananda, the infiniteness. This is the purpose of explaining. So we use various, and unfortunately, till we go to that level, we are going to be using dual language, dualistic language, because otherwise communication is not possible. Because as of now, I am here, you are there, she is there, he is there, everybody is there. But in the ultimate truth, we are all one. Like we saw, if I have to explain somebody the content of my dream, I'll have to tell somebody what happened in the dream. Similarly, if I have to explain the content of my Jagrat, I'll have to tell him what happened in my life. If I have to explain the content of my deep sleep, nothing is there. Because there I, he, him, you, she, it is gone. Everything is Satchitananda Parampara. So no explanation is needed. If you ask, if you go and tell them, I slept very nice yesterday. Nobody's going to, how was it? What happened? Nobody's going to even ask. Because they know, they immediately understand, because it is them. They are that sleep. That is their real nature. So nobody is going to ask such questions about deep sleep, but all questions about dream and Jagrat, waking state, will arise. So in this song, because Satchitananda, Sat and Chit are one and the same as been given. So I think we need to break, otherwise the subject can get little tedious for a single sitting. We can conclude the whole thing in the next sitting, and we have another 7-8 slokas, and then we have some 5 slokas as a finishing Mangala slokas. We'll take all that up in one more. It's worth spending one more session on the same subject, because for us, if we get a good hold or grasp of Upadesa Undiyar or Upadesa Saram, as it is called in Sanskrit, nothing else is needed. Nothing else is needed. In fact, whether or not it will be great, and it is mandatory according to, in order to gain more clarity, to learn Ulladin Arpadu. But even this, once we apply, we are in a clean mind, without giving scope for pramada, without giving scope for externalities to creep in. If we just do mananam of this Upadesa Saram, it's enough. It is enough. We don't need to keep on, learning more and more things. This is someone's substance that is given clearly. So we will spend one more session to conclude the summary of Upadesa Saram. I wanted to keep it a summary, but unfortunately, I could not summarize it beyond this, because there's no meaning in doing that. Just reading the sloka and just reading the one-line meaning and then going. No, even though that was the original intention, the practicality, I could not appreciate the practicality of that approach. So, at the cost of being repetitive, I thought we should go through this process again and again and again, as much as we can. Arunachalam.